With each passing day, you see the degradation of Kali Yuga intensify. Doesn't take an how do you say? Apocalyptic exaggeration to see that. A compassionate person thinks, how can the situation be changed? Individually, collectively, no material method will work, nor will religious sentiment help. I'm very much indebted to the devotees who participated in this marathon and those who supported their participation, making it possible by facilitation. "90% of our bhakti practitioners," I always ask, and they always tell me, they began their bhakti practice by meeting a devotee somewhere who gave them a book, gave them a flyer, brochure, and in that way, by pursuing the book and the flyer, their spiritual life began. As you know, I myself was like that. And Shesha Prabhu also described how he received some literature in the very beginning. You know how I didn't want to have anything to do with devotees, but I loved the books. You know how I ordered all my books from BBT mail order, just so I would not have to talk to a devotee. And when I finally, after 6 months of reading Prabhupada's books 4 hours a day, but I finally realized I couldn't wait for Srimad Bhagavatam to come in the post. I had to go find a devotee because I immediately wanted Srimad Bhagavatam because I had read all my other books twice. Then I heard about the impending or the just happening publication of Srimad Bhagavatam, the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. Took all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expanded upon them. 60 volumes. So, I can't wait for this. So I went to the big bus terminal in New York City. 5,000 people running through at breakneck speed at all times, especially in the evening when I went. And I asked, I walked up to a book distributor devotee and asked what I thought was a very normal, commonplace question. I asked, "Do you have Srimad Bhagavatam?" Of course, now we all know how often that happens. So I'm indebted to Srila Prabhupada's books for the most profound and comprehensive presentation of spiritual knowledge. And you all have a chance. I also have the chance to distribute those books. And we spoke a few days ago about how, and I've heard it from several of you, what's the point of my going out to present the books to someone? I just only do one book. But I've also heard from some of you how you yourself got a book from someone. And then I asked, who was it? And it turns out that that devotee thought he or she was having a tough day. I've only distributed one book, what's the use? I should go back. Or before I distribute the one book, I should go back, I should give up. Yet there are devotees here from that who met such a person, who was not, quote unquote, a big Sankirtan devotee. We're all tiny servants of Lord Chaitanya. Some of you who are sacrificing so much for distributing Prabhupada's books. Singles, some are householders with family members. I appreciate so much the sacrifice. Some are younger, some are older. Last, was it 2 Sundays ago, I was at the Loft in Auckland, and so many guests were there. So many of them told me they were there because they met someone on the street. Persons from all over the world were there, chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasad, all because they met someone. I've explained before how we do use various techniques for publicizing the outreach centers. We use social media, we use websites, of course. We try everything. But after more than 20 years in this campaign, we've never come across a method more effective than a devotee going out and meeting people. Nothing comes even slightly near the personal impact of meeting a devotee. Far outweighs any other method. Same thing has been found in other places. Mangalarti Devidasi can tell you she found the same thing in Toronto, finding out the same thing in Philadelphia. Yes, use social media. Yes, use the internet. Use every opportunity at your disposal. But after years of experience, again, the same conclusion. Nothing is better than the face-to-face encounter with a devotee representing Lord Chaitanya. This is an activity everyone can participate in. Men, women, young, old. When I get a chance to spend sizable time distributing Prabhupada's books, I am so happy. Generally, I have to take an opportunity where there are book tables. So if you ever find a situation where book tables are possible, let me know. So I can have my fun. Because the body is no longer able to walk back and forth rapidly up and down the streets, catching people. But when I was at the Los Angeles Rath Yatra this year, I had the book table all to myself, although Shastra Krib was also there. But I made sure he didn't interfere with my sales. Oh, I was so happy. My godbrothers, like His Holiness Giraj Swami, they're coming up to me and say, "You look totally blissed out." I said, "I am." So, I look forward to doing that again next year. That's how I'll have my fun, since I can't keep up with you all, walking back and forth rapidly up the street. Do we really know the depths of this book distribution activity? I've hinted before. You are distributing at the deepest level. You're distributing the feelings of separation from Krishna. Krishna, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributes the taste of separation from Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, as Krishna, relishes the taste of enjoyment. The two are totally interlinked. At the same time, there is an eternal distinction. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, an eternal distinction between Gaura Lila and Krishna Lila. Nevertheless, they both are interlocked. Krishna as Lord Chaitanya is tasting the feelings of separation. Lord Chaitanya as Krishna is tasting the flavors of enjoyment. This activity of trying to connect Krishna's parts and parcels, reconnect those parts and parcels with him, is related to the highest, most confidential affairs in the topmost portion of the spiritual world. You sing about it during Mangal Arti. Nikunja yuno rati kele siddhaya, yayali bir yuktir apekshaniya. The spiritual master is always engaged in assisting Krishna's confidential associates, the gopis, in making meetings with Krishna in the Nikunja, the groves of Vrindavan. Similarly, in that same general endeavor, Sankirtan devotees are trying to arrange for meetings, reunions between Krishna's lost parts and parcels and Krishna. I've explained before that one very enthusiastic Sankirtan devotee, Sankirtan leader, the famous Rameshwar, was saying like this in Los Angeles in 1972 or so. The book distributors, the Sankirtan devotees, are following the moods of the gopis, in that they're making arrangements for meetings with Krishna. So many devotees in Los Angeles thought, this is way over the top. He's really getting fanatical now. It's real book distribution, ki jai talk. So the dispute raged and finally reached Srila Prabhupada, who commented, "Yes, this is true." Of course, such a vision is at the height, or you could say the most profound depth. And we don't project that we're on such a platform, but nevertheless that full potential is there. That's the point. Just by touching these books, persons get, if they touch with respect, appreciation, they get a human form of life in the next life. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam are in direct contact with Krishna. one of our newer practitioners, the famous Liv, just telling me about her first day out on book distribution. As you know, she's very shy. Especially when she dances. But she said, immediately I could sense I'm just soaking in a flood of purification. So I told her that Krishna is very kind to her, that he's given her a taste so early for this confidential activity of directly distributing contact with Krishna. One example about how day by day the degradation of society increases. We all saw the cow expose newscast. So today I got a text from Ashrayananda, who had heard your Prime Minister commenting about it on the radio. And what were his sagacious words of wisdom? I am utterly disgusted and outraged by this act of economic sabotage. I don't need to say any more. So again, I'm so indebted to those making the sacrifice to distribute the presence of Krishna. These books are not products of a material endeavor. They're not products of the material world, and that's why they have such an effect. These books give knowledge. They don't hammer you with dogmatic statements with no explanation. Everything is so carefully explained backwards and forwards. Repeated so you get the point again and again and don't forget it. There's no, this is the way it is, you gotta believe it. Instead, the books say, this is the way it is and here's why. Consider this angle, consider that angle. Add this up, subtract this. Isn't the conclusion obvious? Nor do the books drag Krishna to the material platform and say Krishna is within the realm of your material sense perception. No, the books describe a non-material methodology for verifying the non-material subject matter. We are fully confident that these books are the most desperate need of human society. By distributing the books, you'll be able to understand them better. You'll catch Krishna's attention. He will, from within your heart, allow you to understand the most confidential conclusions. When you go out to meet the public and introduce this literature to them, your vision changes. You can see the material energy, the whole pageant unfolding in front of your eyes. Liv was telling me that. You get a different kind of vision. It's the best television. watching the public through the eyes of a book distributor. I was discussing with some of our new distributors, new meaning those who made their first efforts, their budding efforts. And they all say the same thing. The funniest TV show to see on when you're out distributing books involve the couples. You approach a couple and guy's interested a little bit. Lady nudges him. It's not for you. Come on, let's go. And the guy dutifully. Does he get insight into what's going on? You see it right in front of your eyes. You see the Bhagavatam right in front of your eyes. I heard quite a few stories of how parents and their kids, they're approached by a Sankirtan devotee. Little kids, 5 years old. Parent says, no. And the little kid says, I want it. So we don't know how the super soul in the heart is acting. It's the greatest educational experience. It's like Sheshapu was describing. He's going to a university library in Colorado. Never expecting that the professor he was going to talk to would say that my favorite book is Srimad Bhagavatam. When those things happen, you're just stunned. As he described, he just went back to the van and just stunned by the power of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. What sustains the dedicated book distributors? Whether they're brahmacharis or young ladies or grihastas, what sustains them? There's such a taste in giving Krishna to others. That taste surpasses the austerities, the inconveniences, the rejection. There is such a taste in giving pure love to others. By giving pure love to others, you become a pure lover. What the soul is longing for, you make progress to become. The basic transcendental mathematical fact is, the more you give Krishna, the more you get Krishna. The more greedy you are to give Krishna, the more you'll get Krishna. Those of you who want to go deeper within bhakti must understand Krishna as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is up to. What is he doing? And how we are his servants. For those older devotees, and we have some here, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in this present age, the best way to revive one's original relationship with Krishna, and one of the primary rasas, the best method is to serve Lord Chaitanya as his servant. And through that dasiras, by serving Lord Chaitanya as his servant, that is the gateway to all the other rasas with Krishna. Watching you all chant and dance the past nights I wonder how many of you understand the full potency of this chanting and dancing. The more you chant and dance, the more the flood of love of Krishna increases. As even a newcomer quickly discovers, this chanting and dancing is not ordinary. Something's going on. Yes, you're making spiritual advancement. Every time you clap your hands, every time you roar the Hare Krishna mantra. Every time you raise your hands in the air, move your feet, you're marching on the way back to Krishna. The Lord Chaitanya's desire is that the whole world engages in this activity. That may seem impossible, but what's happening now in terms of Krishna Bhakti 50 years ago would have been said to be impossible. The prediction by Vaishnavacharyas and also prediction in the Shastra that one day in every town and village Krishna's name would be heard. Even followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the first part of the 20th century, even up till mid-1960, they thought this was just poetic. It was, such statements were poetic embellishments meant to make the bhaktas enthusiastic. One day Krishna's name will be heard in every village. Ki jai, but we know it's never going to happen. But it happened. We have a chance to do something most extraordinary with our life. By participating in this Sankirtan Yajna, you become a hero. You may say to yourself, who are we? We're just insignificant persons. Yes, but we have a chance to do the most significant thing. More and more, as you participate in this Sankirtan Yajna, this effort for distributing Krishna's glories, the more you begin to realize the depths of that activity. You'll never get to the bottom of it. We thank you again for your participation, and we're dealing with a small population in New Zealand, 4.2 million persons. There's more persons in the Sydney metropolitan area than New Zealand. So we have to be careful. We should be careful anywhere we are in the world, but we have to be especially careful here. We put so much emphasis, therefore, on the quality of the contact with the person. Treat them like you're going to see them again, because you are. And by that contact Sankirtan spirit, so many new people have come. Let us never forget that our basis is the books. Our motto, remember? Love to read them, love to distribute them. That is our motto. We just don't distribute them. We relish reading them. We just don't read them. We relish distributing them. That's the safest position in the material world. Devamrita is here. I remember the famous story of how I was protected from danger. Most dangerous situation yet. He was in the safest position. You're in Hamilton, right? Friday night, he was doing door to door. He knocked on one door, rang the bell, and one young lady answered the door, dressed like she was going out to a party. And no doubt she looked at Devamrita and thought, maybe I don't have to go anywhere for the party. Just come to my door. So Devamrita valiantly, showed her the books, made his presentation. And you can just imagine the young lady making various postures and gestures. And so Devamrita thought there's one way to keep her on the straight and narrow. I'll tell her exactly what I am. So he begins to say, we're going from town to town distributing these books because I'm a monk. He thought that would, okay, clarify everything. She would, straighten up. I'm a monk. She said, what's a monk? And he explained, a monk is a person who follows vows of celibacy. She looked at him and said, why don't you come inside? I'll help you break those vows. So Devamrita did what I call the countdown. You tell yourself, okay, at the count of 10, I gotta be out of here. In other words, don't try to be rational, don't try to, think, well, this will look very disruptive and bad manners if I suddenly just dash away. Just start counting. When you reach 5 or 10, I hope it was 5, you just disappear without any explanation. So yes, he did that. So as his reward, he has Lakshmi Dart. So although he was in the most dangerous situation, he was actually in the safest situation in terms of taking shelter of the service for Krishna's pleasure. Krishna doesn't want me sticking around here, even for trying to distribute her a book. There are no greater adventures that you'll have in life than what you get, the adventures you get by distributing Prabhupada's books. I could tell you so many stories about smuggling books behind the Iron Curtain. Smuggling into communist countries tractor truckloads of 10,000 Bhagavad Gitas. I could tell you stories about how devotees in those former communist countries, so oppressed, the reaction when a tractor trailer full of 10,000 Bhagavad Gitas dries up in front of their house and start unloading these books. And how they would go out in midwinter, Northern Europe, winter, 15 below 0 Celsius. And they were so happy the tears would freeze to their cheeks. So I've seen all that. I've seen so many of you in the beginnings of your Sankirtan careers. I'd like to do that again. Some of you may remember just to see how you were doing and what the quality of the exchanges were, I would kind of observe you from a hidden vantage point while you were distributing books. Just to see what was going on, what the quality of the activity was. And that way we built up a company culture of quality exchanges, inviting people, building relationships with the people that you meet, so that next time you meet them, they'll be a bit more favorable. And I've heard it from so many of you that so many persons tell you, you've approached me 3 times, and each time I said, no, all right, this time, I'll take it. We'd like to revive the set distribution a bit more. Keep that in mind, please. So let's totally banish this notion that what will my little bit really do? What will my little bit count? I say make my little effort. We don't know how Krishna will use us. Many of you know my story as doing full-time service of book distribution. I started doing that as a 3-week devotee. How for 2 years I struggled 7 days a week. That's what the brahmacharis did back in the early 70s, 7 days a week. 2 years, nothing. Practically I didn't do anything. I even became a Sankirtan leader, even though I did nothing, because they thought I tried so hard. They called me the hard luck kid. And then, even though I actually hated the service, I'll tell you, but simultaneously, as much as I hated it, I was determined to love it, because I knew this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted, and I wanted to serve him. He had given me the most precious jewel. I wanted to reciprocate. So for 2 years, traveling all over the USA, I practically did very little. And one day it all changed. Suddenly the books began to fly out of my hands. I remember one of my godbrothers, who I was out that day with, Brigupati, the famous Brigupati. Very tall, long strides, came running over from the other side of the parking lot because he had seen it. What's going on? What's happening? You've got some new mantra you're not telling me? You got some new technique? What's happening here? I said, I don't know. All I can say is, after 2 years of doing nothing, I know it's not me. That's all I know. It is not me. And from then on, I was in action. Just from one moment to the next. No one needed to tell me that this book distribution is not an ordinary activity. Krishna proved it to me. You will do nothing for 2 years until I decide. You will see who is the controller. And I thought I was obviously so miserable. But 20 years later, I was talking to one of my godbrothers who went out on Sankirtan with me 20 years ago in New York, Naranta. We were talking about the old days. And he said, you know, we all, the other Sankirtan devotees, we just couldn't believe how blissful you always were. I said, what? I said, yeah, we couldn't figure it out. You always were so blissful. I said, I thought I was suffering so much. I said, no, you just looked so happy. Even though you weren't doing anything, you looked so happy, and we were doing so much more, but we never looked happy like you. So, how can I say? We actually are not so expert in what is our own happiness, you know? We don't know ourselves as well as we think we do. We'd like, in the coming year, to increase the book distribution in New Zealand. Without unnecessarily upsetting the councils and all that. We'd like to increase the sets, the number of books. And that will mean, automatically, the number of devotees. We want to make a problem here that this room will be too small completely. And then we'll have to ask Gopal Guru and others, how is it possible to extend this building? We want to create problems for ourselves. You may take it on faith that these books are the greatest. I never took it on faith because I had experienced the pinnacle of Western education. I was looking for the answer to all human problems. You know how at Yale my professors allowed me to study whatever I wanted because I told them I was looking for the answer to all human crises. So they said, all right, study whatever you like. And if you find the answer to all human crises, come back and let us know. In other words, they didn't think there was an answer. So I had already, through examining all possible material options for 4 years exhaustively, studying everything from history of science and technology to political science of revolutions, to philosophy of the self, anthropology, even history of the cinema. That was a good one. Got to watch movies all the time. For all that, I knew there is no material solution. And you know the defining moment when I dropped the radical student politics that every student was involved in back then. One radical student organization was planning a radical weekend. That meant a weekend for everyone because everyone was a radical. So we were having a planning session. At that time Yale was all boys still. And so they're making a planning session for workshops, seminars, how to give more power to the people, how to stop the war in Vietnam, how to stop imperialism, colonialism, thisism, thatism, racism, genderism, every ism under the sun, how to stop it all. After they planned out the whole weekend, then another one of the organization's leaders stood up and said, boys, You know that we're going to be inviting girls from the neighboring girls' schools, all the prestige girls' schools in the area. Vassar, Sarah Lawrence, these are all like super posh girls' universities in the USA. So we're going to be bringing in our radical sisters. To attend the weekend. And then, after a day of workshops, and night comes, we all know what time that is, right, boys? Everyone yell out, yeah, party! And then he said, when 3 a.m. comes around, and you have failed, be humble. When 3 a.m. comes around and you haven't made it to a motel room with a fine revolutionary sister, just come on back to the party room, be humble, help clean up. I said, gosh, I'm out of here. That's it. Forget this politics. The bottom line's always the same. So where would I have been if I hadn't come across Prabhupada's books? One of my godbrothers, Chandramali Maharaj, also from the New York area, said, I know what you would have been if you hadn't read Prabhupada's books. You would have been a consummate revolutionary. Where would I have been without reading Prabhupada's books? Upon graduating, I just thought that material pleasure is basically nothing, but that seems to be all there is, so what can you do? You might as well resign yourself. That doesn't get any better than that, even though it's pretty crummy. And then the whole spiritual world opened up before me in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. So I'm trying to pay back my debt. If you can assist, and we all can assist Lord Chaitanya's representatives, how perfect our life will be. Srila Prabhupada described how pure devotional service means that you aspire birth after birth to distribute these books. That's pure devotional service. You're not caring for your own liberation. Birth after birth, you'll distribute these books. So I thank you again for your assistance, your contribution. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.